in the studio, and we have with us today Mary Elizabeth Sipe and Mary Jane Pinso. And they have prepared a script which is going to take us in through the history of the Constitution. And we'll find out a little bit more about it. We'll see what they have to say. So I'll introduce Mary Elizabeth and let you take over.
Well, thank you, Avan. Yes, and I'm the regent of the chapter at the present time. And hello, Green Spring. We're real happy to be here today and share this time with you. As you probably know, in the last year and a half, we've had at least two excellent series about the U.S. Constitution. And so I guess you might say we're going to summarize that too a bit. Hope we can add to something for you. DAR has been celebrating Constitution Week now for this is the 61st year. Saturday was September 17, which was the first day of Constitution Week, and it's those same days every week. We were here last year with you, and we were invited, please, to come back this year. So here we are. And Mary Jane, I have a daughter, Mary Jane. Mary Jane.
Thank you. Mary Elizabeth. The two greatest documents in American history are the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. In the Declaration of Independence, we declared ourselves a new nation. The date of its signing, July 4, 1776, is celebrated as a national holiday with fireworks, speeches, and parades. The Constitution is the basis for America's great heritage. It did two basic things. It established the framework of the federal government, still in use today. It guarantees our rights and our freedoms. It was adopted September 17, 1787. Constitution Week is celebrated September 17 through September 23.
Well, how did the Constitution begin?
Constitution Week began this way. The mission of the DAR is to honor and preserve the legacy of our patriot ancestors, helping to keep them in our memory through preservation, education, and patriotism. In keeping with this mission, the Virginia Daughters of the American Revolution is currently emphasizing the Constitution. To quote State Regent Judith Serber, for the 2016-2019 State Regents Project, we will underwrite a conference room at the Center for the Constitution at Montpelier, the home of James Madison, father of the Constitution. And Mary Elizabeth, you may have something more to say about that.
Yes, I just found out a little bit more about this project. I didn't know, and I should have, that the Robert H. Smith Center for the Constitution has been becoming the nation's foremost training center for constitutional education. And that's been going on for over a decade already. Today, the center is poised for the next chapter. And I'm quoting from a statement of the state regent. The center, construction has begun on Claude Moore Hall, a state-of-the-art building. The construction will have virtual classrooms and a media center and a lot more. And Montpelier is a wonderful place to visit, not too far from here, actually.
Right.
Near Orange, Virginia, between
yes.
Orange and Charlottesville. Take a day's trip. James Madison, the father of the Constitution, said, "Every word of the Constitution decides a question between power and liberty." And that's why the founders insisted on a rigorous written form.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Continue.
The DAR initiated the observance of Constitution Week in 1955 by petition to the United States Congress. President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed it into Public Law 915 in 1956. The purpose of Constitution Week is threefold: to encourage the study of the historical events leading up to the Constitution, to inform people of the importance of the Constitution, and to emphasize our responsibility to protect, defend, and preserve it.
So how is this new nation governing itself between the Declaration of Independence in 1776 and the Constitution in 1787? You know, that's 11 years.
That's right. After the Declaration of Independence made us a new nation, some new type of government had to be formed. What resulted was a loose friendship among the states called the Articles of Confederation.
Oh, yeah.
It gave only limited powers to the central government. Some of its shortcomings: no chief executive, no national capital, no federal courts, no national currency. Each state printed its own money. One House of Congress with little authority and no pay except by each congressman's own state. No authority to collect taxes. No pay for a small army. We had to depend on state militias. No trade regulations.
Wow. Things were pretty bad, weren't they?
Yes, they were. In 1787, the important men of the day invited all 13 states to a convention in Philadelphia on the second Sunday in May, quote, to amend the Articles of Confederation, unquote. A quorum of 7 states was needed before the convention could convene. All states attended except Rhode Island. Each state had 1 vote, and the majority ruled. The delegates mirrored the Protestant character of American religious life at that time. Most were natives of the 13 colonies, although a few were born in Ireland or England, 1 born in Scotland, and 1 in the West Indies. Mobility has always characterized American life. George Mason was a delegate from Virginia. George Washington was president of the convention. 2 of the men, Washington and Madison, were to become presidents of the United States. Others were to become senators, representatives, federal judges, Supreme Court justices, or diplomats.
So what resulted from the Philadelphia Convention?
What resulted from the convention was a whole new document, the United States Constitution. We celebrate Constitution Week, September 17 through 23, because the American Federation Congress adopted the United States Constitution on September 17, 1787. The roots of the Constitution go back 800 years to medieval England. King John signed the Magna Carta in 1215 to address grievances of his barons who challenged his autocracy. The basic principles of the Magna Carta remain a part of English law, and they were incorporated into the United States Bill of Rights. To promote the adoption of the Constitution, Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison wrote the Federalist Papers. They were a series of essays that expounded the merits of the Constitution and answered objections to it.
Well, the preamble to the Constitution is very familiar to all of us. In fact, you heard it at the beginning of the program, and we have a very nice picture over here that tells us a little bit about it. But will you tell us some more about the preamble of the Constitution?
Yes. It begins, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union," and continues from there. The first 3 articles establish the 3 branches of government: the Congress, the presidency, and the judiciary. They specify qualifications, powers, and the duties of each office. Article 2 of that group specifies the wording of the oath or affirmation that the president-elect takes during the inauguration ceremony. Article 4 deals with states' issues, including admitting new states. Article 5 provides for amendments. Article 6 declares that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Article 7 states that ratification of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of the Constitution for those states.
Didn't the Bill of Rights follow soon after that?
Yes, a while after. The first 10 amendments to the Constitution are known as the Bill of Rights. They list the basic human rights guaranteed by law. Federalists thought that the Bill of Rights was unnecessary, but others, fearing a strong central government, would not ratify the Constitution unless it contained a Bill of Rights. George Mason, known as the father of the Bill of Rights, was one of those. He insisted that the Constitution include a Bill of Rights. He had previously drafted the Virginia Declaration of Rights. It became the basis for the Bill of Rights and the Constitution.
We wait on your every word.
In September 1789, the first meeting of Congress proposed 12 amendments to the Constitution. The first 2 were not ratified. One concerned the number of constituents for each representative. The second concerned the compensation of congressmen. Articles 3 through 12 were ratified in 1791, and they became known as the Bill of Rights.
You know, I have a question here, but I don't have the answer. The first one that was not ratified told us how many constituents would serve each representative.
That's right.
So, but we now know how that is done.
Well, that would have had to have changed about every year, wouldn't it?
Well, it does change
Yes.
every so often, depending. I think it's based on the census. It's based on the census of each state. Okay, and then the compensation. They do that whenever they need to.
Yes, and that changes in time also.
It surely does. Well, speaking of amendments, how is amending the Constitution accomplished?
It is not easy to amend the Constitution. There are 2 ways to propose an amendment. 2/3 of the state legislatures could call a constitutional convention. This has not been done. The way that has been done is for a bill to pass both houses of Congress and then be ratified by 3/4 of the state legislatures. The President of the United States has no veto power over an amendment bill. In modern times, Congress usually places a time limit of 7 years on the bill. Close to 10,000 amendments have been proposed. There are 27 amendments. The 21st nullified the 18th, ending Prohibition.
Well, it's pretty obvious that it's very hard to amend the Constitution if we only have 27 amendments out of possible 10,000 approved.
Right.
That's right.
And then the time limit has killed some more that
That's
were
right.
Are
very...
there any
correct.
amendments still floating around out there?
Well, the amendment for, oh golly, I forgot what it was. Anyway, there were 2, the Equal Rights Amendment, I think that's the one that died for lack of time. And D.C. statehood also died for lack of time. What's still out there, I don't know.
That's a question to find out.
Yes, it is.
Well, tell us, what are some of the amendments that have passed?
The first guarantees freedom of speech, religion, assembly, and press. The 5th required due process of law before deprivation of life, liberty, or property. It is known as habeas corpus. The 10th stated that powers not given to the federal government belong to the states or individuals. These 3 are included in the Bill of Rights. Some of the others are: 13th, abolished slavery. 15th, gave all males the vote. 19th, gave women the vote. 20th, set inauguration day on January 20 in the year following an election. The term for senators and representatives begins on January 3rd. The 26th lowered voting age to 18.
That 20 just caught my eye again. I remember when I was a little girl, the inauguration was in March.
Oh.
And it made a much longer lame duck session. So I'm sure that's what brought about the 20th Amendment. So there was a less time between election and inauguration.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now it's your turn to say a bit, Mary Elizabeth.
All right. Well, I have a little quiz for you. I can't see you, and obviously I can't hear you either. So quiz yourself here, but I'll give you the answer as well, okay? First, how often does the word democracy appear in the Constitution? It doesn't.
I didn't think so.
You should have answered my question. Has anybody noticed which state is misspelled in the Constitution?
No.
They only put one N in Pennsylvania instead of two. Okay, I think you know the answer to this one. Where does the word sex appear? You want to answer that? Okay. The 19th Amendment giving women the right to vote. Okay. Which two amendments cancel each other out?
It's the one, well, there's one, what,
18th and 21st?
18 and 21st, 21st establishing slavery?
No,
that- 18th.
Prohibition.
Prohibition, that's
Yes,
right.
prohibition. Well, where can you see the Constitution today? A copy of the original.
It's in the
It's close by.
Smithsonian.
Well, National Archives, actually. And so I think Mary Jane answered this question. How many states had to ratify the original Constitution?
7.
We had to have seven. For the constitutional convention to meet, but 9 had to ratify. Okay. So what does the Constitution say about slavery?
It's abolished.
Not yet.
Oh, not yet.
No,
Okay.
that came later. Let's see, that was the 13th Amendment that
okay.
abolished slavery. So the Constitution
Doesn't
said...
say anything.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, is there, Mary Jane, I'm going to ask you to answer this one. Is there a memorial honoring the Constitution?
Yes, there is. Constitution Hall is Washington, D.C.'s largest concert hall, and it is the only structure dedicated to the United States Constitution. The inscription on the pediment reads, quote, Constitution Hall, a memorial to that immortal document, the Constitution of the United States, in which are incorporated the principles of freedom, equality, and justice, for which our forefathers strove. Constitution Hall is one of the world's largest buildings owned by women. Opened in 1929, it was designed to house the annual DAR convention. Located near the White House, it is the venue for concerts, lectures, corporate events, graduations, and award ceremonies.
Is there well, let me add a little bit something in there too. DAR was first organized on October 11, 1890. Constitution Hall opened in 1929. But the women in DAR were very, very active in between those times. I would imagine. And here we see, you see in front of you, a picture of Constitution Hall and some of the construction that has been going on. Thank you for showing us those pictures, okay?
You know, I'd like to make a comment here, and it's strictly a personal thing. I don't like the word that it's called a memorial. To me, a memorial means something that's gone in memory of something. And I
Well,
think our Constitution is still alive. It may not be real
Definitely.
well, but it's still alive.
That's very true.
It
glad-
might be better to say in honor of.
Honor of, yes.
Yes.
It is. We'll have to mention that.
Yes.
But it's a memorial in the sense that both it and the Constitution do commemorate all those back in the late 1700s who made make the
Yes,
Constitution possible
Yes.
for us to be free
You're
for
right.
liberty.
You're right.
So is there a larger significance to the U.S. Constitution than as a basis for our government?
Yes. The United States Constitution has endured longer than any other constitution. It has been used as a model by many other countries for drafting their own constitutions.
Very good. I'm going to add just a couple of little incidents. Rules of the convention. Now, I did mention that we already said that there had to be 7 states before the convention could convene. And the convention convened each morning at 10 o'clock, with George Washington opening it, and it closed each day at 4 o'clock. One reason maybe that they had to, well, I know they were glad that it closed by 4 o'clock because one of the rules for the Constitution was secrecy. The delegates decided they didn't want the newspapers or the general population to have any idea as to what was going on behind those closed doors. They could all speak their minds, say what they thought, and just argue that out amongst themselves, which they did. They had, and you've heard how hot that was. Well, yes, they had to keep the shutters closed in order to accomplish and keep their secrecy. So they were always sweltering. So I think at 4 o'clock they were definitely ready to go home for the day. Let's see. Each state had just one vote in the convention, no matter how many delegates they had. But the majority ruled, and if there was a tie in the delegation, the vote didn't count. No tiebreakers. Let's see. And every member rising to speak had to first address George Washington, president of the convention, and no one in the convention in attendance could talk or read, and everyone could have only a second time. No, let me rephrase that. No one could speak until everyone else had had a chance. And that's still popular today when conventions of any kind meet, isn't it? Well, I don't know how much time we have left.
Still have a couple of minutes.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you for the opportunity to share some of these facts in a quite condensed fashion about our nation's insights, the Constitution and the insights into it. We hope you've benefited from this brief presentation, maybe learned something new or got some questions in your mind that you want to pursue on your own. And if we have another minute, I'd like to invite Green Spring residents who live here and are already member of a DAR chapter to come and visit with us. Come join us here at Green Spring. It's a marvelous way to stay active in DAR. In fact, that's one of the reasons, the main reason for which this chapter was formed here at Green Spring 16 years ago. But there's a lot of ladies out there who would also like to become members. So if you think you might have an eligibility, or...
Can you give us a quick rundown of what it takes to be a member?
Yes, thank you. You have to have a direct line, bloodline, back to someone who served during the Revolution, American Revolution. Now, it didn't have to be a soldier. Most people think it has to be military. But that person could have done something we would think today maybe sort of simple. Maybe you donated a cow. The Army was hungry. you may have given wheat or just even money. You could have paid paid someone to substitute for you because you were unable to serve. I might have served on a jury, been a member of one of the committees that served at that time. One was called the Committee on Safety. There were several other committees.
In other words, sort of proved your loyalty.
Exactly. In fact, another way that you could do was to sign an oath of allegiance to the new country.
Okay.
You have to have documentation all the way back to this revolutionary ancestor.
And we have a registrar in our chapter who is very active in assisting people to become members. And she goes to the DAR library and does research for
And
prospective members.
Very good.
She loves doing it. So if you don't know your eligibility, you don't even know if you have eligibility, let us know. You can contact me. You can contact any member of the chapter here at Green Spring. You can find us in the Green Spring Handbook.
Right.
So they're more than happy to assist you.
And the DAR does a lot of charity work, too.
Yes.
It definitely
Yes.
does.
Okay.
Very definitely.
Okay, I think we're just about out of time here, so thank you so much for being with us and bringing us those little tidbits. I think it was very interesting. I hope everyone picked up a few points of knowledge that you didn't have, and we'll invite you back again next year.
Maybe.